maybe just wait for 1 more minute, Charity, and then start. If students are coming out of classes and things like that.
Sounds good.
I hope everybody is doing well today. So Charity, we are getting some snow. So overnight we received, I think, 1/2 inch of snow here, but nothing to complain. Overall, the weather has been relatively mild all through winter, at least in Michigan.
Yeah, we got the same snow last night. So we are right in line with you. And I'm ready for spring. It's just a cruel joke. Let's just flip the page. Go to spring.
Yes.
I think we picked up about 4 inches here, some of that lake effect.
Wow.
A little wet and heavy, and it'll be gone soon.
I think ours already went away. Our 1/2 inch went away already. This morning it's already gone.
Where are you located, Charity?
Just outside of Chicago. I'm west. So
okay.
yeah,
Okay.
west of Chicago, in the country a little bit.
Okay. Okay, so it is 12:03. Maybe it is a good time to go ahead and get started. Thank you all for joining the information session today. Very, very excited to talk to you about the Motor City Hack. It's a hackathon that will be held on campus at Wayne State in April 7th through 8th. So the hackathon idea was brought to us by Here Technologies. In particular, a little later, I will introduce Charity Rumri. But Wayne State is very, very excited. This is a collaborative event that is being planned by many colleges at Wayne State, including College of Engineering, the Mike Ilitch School of Business, as well as class. And just a few days ago, we heard from the School of Information Sciences. They are very excited about bringing their students to this hackathon. So I just want to take a second to tell the students that, why we are doing this. We want to basically give our students an opportunity to participate in this hackathon and get creative in leveraging the data sources that are available through all our collaborators, which we'll talk about in a second, to tackle issues of interest to urban communities like the city of Detroit, and address topics such as mobility, health, and well-being, and in particular, with a focus on leveraging locational technology to basically drive these solutions. So from industrial and systems engineering, we have several faculty, and I see a few students that are on the call. And besides me, Professor Sarah Masood, Yanxia Lu, and Saran Venkatachalam will be involved. From computer science, we have Dr. Marco Broccanelli, who is going to be coordinating. There's a lot of interest from computer science. From Mike Ilitch School of Business, we have Professor Tony Summers on the call. And Ajit Sharma, who is, I think, on a teaching assignment or another assignment right now as we speak, from the MIS department. So they are working to form some teams. And from public health, we have Dr. Sarah Suber. So they are planning to bring some students. And urban studies, Dr. Raymond Muhammad is the chair of the department. So they are also trying to recruit. And on the call, we also have Chad Sagir, who is with SEMCOG, but is also an adjunct faculty member with urban studies. And last but not the least, we have School of Information Sciences that will be joining us. And from a technology perspective, our CNIT, our central IT group, will also be part of the hackathon, providing support, technology support, as well as application development support. So really, really excited about this hackathon. Should be fun. It's been some years since I stayed up all night, but looking forward to this 24-hour hackathon. And with that, I want to hand off the meeting to Charity Rumri. She's the Senior Vice President and General Manager for Americas for Here Technologies. Thank you, Charity, for bringing this opportunity to us.
Hey, thank you for having me. And I want to say hello to everyone. My name is Charity. I run really sales in the Americas region for Here Technologies, and became acquainted with Wayne State. It has to be like maybe 3 years ago plus at this point, where prior to COVID, I had the opportunity to visit and meet with some of the faculty, meet with some of the students, and have just been a real fan of Wayne State University. And it's in our sweet spot in that we have an office in the Detroit area. We work a lot in the automotive industry in particular, and basically have really a great set of students and faculty that are a part of our extended community. And as such, we decided that we would collaborate and that we would extend that collaboration both to the city of Detroit. We have Stephen on from the city of Detroit, as well as to SEMCOG, the Southeast Michigan Council of Governments, so that we could come together and plan something special for the students and also for all of us, because this is special for us to see what you all are able to come up with. And as he mentioned, we are starting this to be April 7th and 8th in the Student Center. We want this to be in person. This is going to be a fun activity. We will have snacks. We will have people available to help with technical support. And we're really excited to see what you all will build. So if I could draw your attention to the slide, you can see basically setting this up and thinking through this was really just an exercise of, wow, the last couple of years have really changed the way that we move around cities and urban environments. In fact, COVID in and of itself, almost 2 years ago today, really stopped the world as we know it and changed the way that we move through cities. It changed traffic patterns, it changed our schedules, it changed how we go to work and how we go to school. And so we started to think about, what would we do if we could just do some out of the box thinking to leverage location to change the way that we move through our cities or to impact our health and well-being. A big part of the COVID impact for me has been being separated from family and friends, what that does to your own well-being, but also just what it does to your health and how you move around. In the last couple of years, I think all of us have probably changed our habits related to those things. So we really wanted to partner with the community and say, who are the enthusiastic, innovative teams that want to come together in teams of maybe 2 to 6 people to innovate and bring ideas on how you would improve personal or corporate mobility in the Motor City itself, which we love, or in other urban areas. And it could also support personal and societal health and well-being. We're open to all of those things, and we're looking forward to the ideas that you come up with. We thought through some examples. I don't know if you've all heard of the 15-minute city. That's a great example of how you might leverage location to move around your city. What are the patterns that you would leverage if you wanted to live in a place where everything was accessible within 15 minutes of where you live or work, as an example? And so we will put together a judges panel that on Friday morning, the 8th, and the whole schedule is published on DevPost for you to review. But we will actually have judges from Wayne State, from Here Technologies, from SEMCOG, and from the city of Detroit come together and judge the different projects based upon a rubric of the values you see here on the right side of the screen. The first is innovation. How well does your proposed idea or solution reimagine the impact of location on mobility, health, and well-being for our society? The second is the presentation. How well does the team present their idea or their technology? From there, we'll look at the scale of potential community impact. Can you really impact your community at scale? Is this an idea that you could leverage to do so? And then how viable is it? Could you really solve a day-to-day issue in our society or in our community? And does it demonstrate real valuable societal impact or business impact so that you could scale and sustain the idea? And then we look at execution. Some teams may be able to execute better than others, but we really want to value the execution separate from the innovation so that we could award or potentially give prizes to different teams based on those strengths. And then finally, how well do you leverage location? We firmly believe at Here Technologies that location is a part of almost every technology moving forward in our society. And so as such, we are partnering with all of the partners I've just mentioned to give up to $5,000 in prizes to teams based upon how they perform against this rubric. Could be your idea is strong, or it could be your technology is strong, or that it's just very viable and has a lot of business impact. And just a word about that, the IP itself, the idea that you come up with is your idea. This isn't something we take ownership of. I think it's really important that we seed students and we let you innovate and that we let you grow and potentially even innovate in your own business perspective. Our thought is that you will be innovating on our technology. We're happy to light that up. And we're also happy to see you grow and develop and potentially seed a new business or a new thought for your community. So that is what we're trying to accomplish. We want to do it in person. We want to have a lot of fun, and we want to give some snacks, some food, some prizes along the way. With that said, I think before we get into the meat of the actual data sets and what we're trying to do with the technology, let's just pause and take questions on any of the basics for the event itself.
I see 4 or 5 PhD students from my department alone, Charity, on the call. Very bright students.
Great.
Yeah.
Hi, Dr. Janelle.
Hi,
everyone. Sorry to interrupt. I'm a little bit confused. Is this the information session or the event session? I mean, are we supposed to be here? I don't know.
Yeah. This is just an information session for us, just to basically talk about this event, why students should get involved, right? Compete for these prizes, compete to produce the best ideas, form teams, things of that sort. Yeah, so the actual event will be taking place in April, on April 7th and 8th, and you will hear more about some additional sessions that we are planning between now and the actual hackathon, to help you better understand, for example, the HERE platforms, as well as the data portals that will be available for the teams to, build your tools and applications at the actual hackathon.
Oh, I see. Thank you so much for the explanation.
Sure. Absolutely. Any other questions?
Hi, this is David Lanier. How you doing, Dr. Jim?
Very good, David.
So one clarifying question, because I know, and I actually asked this of Mark Garrison a couple of nights ago. So in lieu of having strong developer skills, when it comes to that part of the rubric, will you allow like the use of wireframes or like concept maps in lieu of actually delivering a working application?
Absolutely. I've let Charity answer the question, but absolutely, David, go ahead, Charity.
Absolutely. And David, one of the key things kind of on my mind as we started to think through this in detail was that some people might not have that strength of development, and that's okay. We want to make those assets available to students if they'd like to log on, and we'll go through that in just a few minutes. But you could theoretically come with an idea that's just built out. You could wireframe it, you could present it. I think innovation, it will stand on its own in the rubric as one of the judging criteria. And you'll see that we'll award multiple prizes and some honorable mentions. And we'll do that based upon rubric performance against the scoring mechanisms. But part of that is we want to have wiggle room if somebody comes with an idea that's brilliant, but they just simply didn't have the skills to code that out.
Okay. And thank you for the answer. One last quick question. So what things will be made available? Whiteboards and things provided, or are those things that we'd be asked to bring?
Great question again, David. So what tools and platforms and data sets will be made available? That's going to be discussed in the rest of this information session, David.
Okay, thank you.
Wonderful.
We'll just pause then and see if there are any more questions, and then we will actually go into detail on that.
Okay, so it looks like there are no more questions then.
Great.
Okay.
Just one, sorry to interrupt. Can we record? I mean, is this meeting to be recorded? So
it is being recorded for us, and it'll be made available through the hackathon website. So we'll also basically show you guys. So the hackathon has a dedicated website, and this video will be posted there, so other students can learn about these details, and the future information sessions will also be recorded and made available.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Sorry, I missed the recording. Sorry. Thank you.
Sure, for us. Sounds good. So with that,
Thank
Charity,
you.
I think we can move forward.
Okay, great. Well, with that, I would like to introduce one of our superstar solution architects here at Here Technologies. His name is Steve Hale, and he is going to take us through the next several slides to share what will be made available for the hackathon.
Hey, thank you very much. Appreciate that, and happy to see everybody on here. It looks like the crowd is growing by the minute. Also, I want to introduce Jonathan Hernandez. He is my counterpart as a business solution architect, and he's the smart guy, and I'm the puppet. So we'll absolutely take full advantage of him. The idea here, right, and as we were just talking about, this isn't exclusive to a full-on developer mindset. With that said, we do have some tools that you can leverage if you were to go as far as building an application, or even just do the analytics to build a presentation around the concept that you develop. To that end, and City of Detroit and SEMCOG will speak to their open data platforms here momentarily, but we've got a host of location services that will be made available to you. And I'm going to touch today on what those location services are, where you can find some information about them. But to be clear, this is sort of a tee up of our training session, our first training session next Friday, which will be March 25th. We'll spend an hour digging into each one of these. And Jared, if you can go to the next slide, please. I believe you've got the,
that next
whoever's got the ball.
That next information session is in 2 weeks. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Next week is spring break, right? Everybody's panicking. I'm so sorry.
No. But
I just wanted to make sure everybody was paying attention, right? So no, appreciate that. The 25th, I think I got the date right, the week wrong. What you see here on the left side, and as you go out to our site, and you can get there either platform.here.com, but I'd recommend developer.here.com. What you'll see as you look at the plans, the limited plan is what we're going to leverage. And each participant, we encourage to go out between now and the training session. I would suggest to go out and just start digging into the documentation. The next slide has a link to that. We'll hold off for a minute on that. But the idea is to familiarize yourself with what these RESTful APIs can do for you in combination with the data sets that the City of Detroit and SEMCOG have available as well for free. There's a fairly long laundry list on that left side of what those APIs are from a descriptive standpoint. We're not going to drill in today to what those are, but for example, you could leverage the routing API and put restrictions around that. You could leverage our isoline routing. In other words, how long in a period of time or distance, or I'm sorry, in a period of time, how far can you go depending on the mode? Maybe you're walking, maybe you're driving, etc. As you start to process some of your concepts and facilitate, let's say somebody walking to get medical care, or where might an idea be to better facilitate that, and maybe even in a community that's underserved, how can you stretch out that those lines or visualize what's capable, or even the gaps in certain services where opportunities might be. Again, a fairly long laundry list. You can augment with our real-time traffic so that you can get a picture of, wait a minute, this may not be feasible at such a time, or it may be a better opportunity to leverage public transportation going a different route or a different mode of travel to enhance certain services. And I don't want to give you too many ideas. You guys are going to come up with great ideas on your own. But the idea here is you're going to have a lot of these services at your disposal. And again, between now and the 25th, my recommendation would be to go out, get an idea of what these do, and the documentation on developer will drill into to each one of these. Ultimately, if you've got teams referenced 2 to 6 people, each of you can create this. With the limited plan, there's not going to be any cost. There's not going to be any requirement to enter a credit card, etc. With that said, there are some transaction limits that will apply. So I would also thoroughly recommend that, if you've got 2 people, 5 people on a team, you each create an account, and that way you can kind of augment and complement one another without bumping up against any of those transaction limits. Again, we'll dive much deeper into that in a couple of weeks with the training session. But I'd recommend you take a look at these when you have some cycles, and everybody's thinking spring break, but it might be a good time to actually, I'm not going to go so far as to say it'd be a prerequisite for the training, but I think you'll get a lot more out of the training and potentially bring some questions. We'll touch on what that training is going to cover here in just a minute. If you want to go to the next slide. And Jonathan, please feel free to jump in if there's anything you wanted to call out in particular. Again, I don't want to get too deep into any of the APIs right now per se, but rather kind of dip the toe in the water, show you, the audience where they can find information about these APIs and sort of prep for the training session.
Yeah,
Before
no,
go ahead, please.
I think you're doing great. The only thing right now that we walk through a few of these where you see the documentation, a lot of these you have a quick start segment, and so that gives you that high level understanding of what does this do. This does A to B routing. This does a search around you. This does allows you to visualize something, right? And I think those are very useful for you when you're parsing through this documentation. Don't get into the weeds just yet, but look at the high level what it can do. And I think that can get your brain going a bit on how you might implement it, or if you're not going to develop it, how you can think through it, right, and wireframe it. So I think it'll give you some of the core components there.
Yeah, and to that end, just to reiterate, if some of the teams may go so far as to build an application that actually make these RESTful API calls. Some of the teams may just choose to do some analytics work, leveraging the return of those API calls, and not necessarily build a formal application. Clearly, from that standpoint, there's no restriction whatsoever. And I don't want to say that you can't create that limited plan account between now and the 25th. If you choose to do that, I would say go ahead. You're more than welcome, but just make sure you're doing the limited plan, and maybe show some restraint in terms of starting to call the APIs, because there's a monthly transaction limit, and I wouldn't want to see you bump up against that. Again, I think we'll give you some really good coaching in a couple of weeks. Just diving in might be the best approach right now. The link on this slide in terms of documentation around our services, this is where you're going to be able to drill in to each of these. If you don't see something on the list here, there's a search bar and go back to the previous slide of the APIs that are listed. And those are the ones that will be available to you with that. So you could just search in, for example, here isoline routing, or here map attributes API. Like, for example, on the next slide, the map attributes API isn't listed. Go ahead and just search it. It'll pull up a link to that developer guide and give you, it starts at a high level, and you can drill in as far as you want to, including code examples, etc. So, I mean, those two references here in terms of going out and looking at the documentation for starters, and also familiarizing yourself. If you want to jump to the next slide real quick, I know I've touched on it in terms of that limited plan. When you go to create an account, and again, we'll walk through the stages of that, and we're going to provide some documentation on what that looks like with screenshots, and build that into the front end of the training in 2 weeks. If you do decide to get ahead of the game, make sure you select the limited plan. There is no need whatsoever to put in any kind of credit card information. All you need to do is put in your name and an email address. There will be an email that gets sent to effectively verify that. Again, we'll go over this in 2 weeks, but just kind of setting expectations as to what you can look for. Do not chase the base plan unless you really want to start, digging in maybe outside of the context of this competition. But effectively, that's kind of the homework, if you will, or opportunity to get ahead and see what tools are at your disposal prior to the training session, and then ultimately the hackathon. As far as framing up the next 3 weeks or so, if you want to jump to the next slide, please. We've got the information session today. So the notion was kind of dip the toe in the water, show you where you can find information on our platform location services. And also kind of introduce the limited plan account. Again, please feel free to jump ahead if you want to, or you can wait for our documentation and walk through on the 25th. I highly encourage reviewing some of the services documentation so that you can start getting your head around not only your ideas, but that might help spawn some ideas, right? I personally think the isoline routing is going to be huge for this competition. So, and we talked about volume and rate limits. We'll address that more deeply in a couple of weeks. It should not be preclusive to doing whatever you need to do, particularly if you have a team of 3 or 6 people that all have accounts. As we've mentioned several times, in 2 weeks from today, at the same time, we'll do a training session specific to these RESTful APIs. We'll walk you through how to create an account with those limited plans. We will also be running some demos. Our technical support team has built a page around demos that show some use cases and examples using these APIs. Not only will we walk through some of those, but once you create a HERE account, you'll also have access to those. They're externally facing. So not only can you dabble with them, but you can leverage some of the code examples for doing whatever you decide to do, whether it's build an application, run analytics, etc. That session will also be recorded as this one is. Documentation will be made available to augment that recording. We're kind of tentatively, and it's not my call, but penciling in a follow-up session, which would likely be a repeat and allow for some additional Q&A the following week, that Friday, April 1st. Not confirmed, but we're looking at that and probably would make sense if there's a demand for it. And last but not least, and certainly Jonathan, Charity, myself, and the HERE team are here to support you leading up to this, but also during the competition itself. Our technical support has made 3 engineers available to actually support you. And we all have access to this alias of Motor City Hack at here.com. And we'll be monitoring that between now and then, but we certainly, for the period of the 24 hours, 9 a.m. to 9 a.m. that Thursday to Friday of the actual event, we'll be monitoring that very closely and have some of our best subject matter experts available for your support as well. So that's, I think that might be it for my slides. We certainly want to provide a little time for City of Detroit and SEMCOG in terms of their open data portals, which the combination of our services in those data sets hopefully fuel some really good, innovative, productive ideas from you.
Steve,
so with
just
that said,
a quick question for you before we hand it over to our partners. You had mentioned isoline routing, and it hit me that not everyone might understand what that is. Could you just take a moment and explain what isoline routing is so folks could get their minds thinking?
Yeah, absolutely. The notion of isoline routing, I'll start by saying you can select what mode you're in. Maybe you're walking, maybe you're on a scooter, maybe you're in a vehicle. The idea is to, based on time and distance, to say, how far can I go in 30 minutes if I'm walking? How far can I go in 10 minutes if I'm walking, right? And to be able to, and effectively the output of that, again, we'll dive in much more deeply with these examples in 2 weeks, but the output of that would be a polygon that you can overlay onto a map that says, okay, based on these parameters, this mode of travel, this is how far I can go. And in conjunction with the data sets that are going to be made available to you, whether it be a hospital, whether it be public transportation, et cetera, you start stitching together the notion of services. And Charity alluded to our 15-minute city. That's a demo link we'll also be able to share with you. But that idea of what is the geographic range of certain services or notions based on the travel and the constraints thereof. So that's kind of the flyby of what isoline routing is. Again, the documentation will dig in quite a bit, and you can look between now and the 25th. That will certainly be one of the first ones that we highlight in terms of capabilities that are likely to be leveraged for this event.
Hey, thank you, Steve. Yeah, that's super helpful. I thought that might be helpful to just think through that type of service as we start to think about the types of data you might want to use. And I thought I would introduce our partner from the City of Detroit, Stephen.
Yes, thank you. So we have an open data portal. It has 149 data sets currently. A large majority of those have spatial components. So in context of this project, we have DDOT routes, DDOT bus stops, queue line, people mover. We additionally have a number of public health data sets that you may be interested in using. And lastly, we also have a geocoder tool on our website. If you have any addresses in the City of Detroit, you can run it through our geocoder and it should kick out information such as parcel IDs, council districts, and the lat longs. If you do have any questions, we have an FAQ page at the top of the open data portal and also a contact page which emails our team, and we will be working during this event so we can provide feedback hopefully pretty quickly if you have questions.
Great, thank you, Stephen. I would also like to give a moment over to Chad from SumCog, and Chad, we can also hand you the screen sharing when you need to.
Yeah, I could do it either way. Thank you for having us here today to talk a little bit about it. And maybe I'll just talk about it as the City of Detroit did. But basically, on our open data portal, we do have a very, very rich amount of data that you can use. And we have, first of all, we have our boundaries. And I'm trying to see if it would be better if I just showed it real quick. But
Sure,
let me
I'll
talk
stop
about.
sharing. Go ahead, take
Yeah,
it away.
let me see if this will work. If this will work, it will be better. Okay, so what you see now is you see our open data portal, I hope.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to go into our boundaries real quick. So we have in our boundaries, under boundaries, we're going to have things like census area boundaries, adjusted urban boundaries, blocks, census tracts, and then we're going to have traffic analysis zones. These are basically zones that have homogeneous traffic characteristics. So those are all going to be there. County boundaries, and when we talk about county, we are a 7-county region. So we'll have Wayne, Oakland, Macomb, St. Clair, Livingston, Washtenaw, and Monroe. So those would be our, and then community boundaries include all the community boundaries within Southeast Michigan, including the City of Detroit and the surrounding boundaries. I think there's a total of 233. We'll have Detroit council districts, again, more county boundaries, Detroit neighborhoods, and regional boundaries. So this data is all available to you, and it's all it all has it's all geographically referenced. So you should be able to look at both the data side of it and also the map side of it. Under our economic data, we do have things like grocery store locations, opportunity zones, urgent care facilities, hospitals, automotive facilities. And again, all these data sets are both in the map view and in data views. We have land data, which includes things like sewer services, land use, group quarters, condominium points, and watersheds and wetlands. And again, you know, I don't want to get too deep into what each one of them are, but there are descriptions of each one of these. And, you know, maybe like from now until the hackathon, you can go in and look at the different data sets and see what we have to offer within them. Transportation might be important because since it's one of the elements of the hackathon, we have things like volumes, crash locations, cargo ports, people mover stations, routes, truck routes, pavement conditions, sidewalks, bicycle networks. So there's a little bit of non-motorized in there, airport location, roads, rails. So there's very, very rich data in transportation. We do have a couple others. These are very big files though. We do have aerial imagery. So if you want any type of aerial imagery, and you can download this, and you know, even beyond the hackathon, this is all free data. Anyone can download it. There's no limitations, nothing. And these are all the flights that they've done over the years. So we have everything from 2005 to 2015. And these are actual Mylar flights that data that you can actually put on a map, so on and so forth. That's all available to you to use. And then lastly, we do have our elevation. So this would be like the contour of the road. So this is also data that's available to use. So my suggestion is you know, go into a specific thing that you're interested in. I just clicked on this traffic volumes real quick. Pretty much most of them are formatted the same way. You're going to have some mapping. You could also look at the data view of it. You can go back from mapping to data. You can click on certain links and it will give you information about specific links, so on and so forth. I know this is a very quick presentation, but I just want to kind of give you a little bit feel and a flavor for the data that we have. And it's all available to you. Like I said, during the hackathon, after the hackathon, however you want to use it is fine. But I really suggest, as a professor and someone who's familiar with things like this, don't wait until the day of the hackathon to get familiar with whether it's our data or the data from here or the data from the city of Detroit. Do a little bit of homework before you come in, and you'll have a much more successful or more pleasant time during the hackathon. So that's all I'm going to share right now, but I'm glad to be part of this, and hopefully we see some really good projects out of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Chad.
I will say one more thing is when you're looking at this data, if you do have any questions, you can always send me an email from now until the hackathon. If you have any specific questions about any of our data, I have no problem with that. And I'm sure all our emails are somewhere around, I'm assuming.
And so, Charity, do you think it is also helpful if we take a second to show them the hackathon website?
Absolutely. Let me make sure that I have it pulled up. I had it pulled up just prior to this.
Okay.
Give me just a second here.
And then as Chad talked about, right, we'll make his information available through the hackathon website, and Steve shared the alias email link, motorcityhack@here.com. We'll make that. I think it is already on the hackathon website. So there you go. So the website address is very, very simple. It is motorcityhack.devpost.com, but Motor City Hack, you have those hyphens. So we shared this information through the email that was distributed to all the students. So there's a lot of good information. There are a couple of different tabs at the top, judging criteria and things like that. So, right, there are resources, things of that sort that will be added continuously to the website. And you all should sign up through this. And there is also a provision to advertise your participation through social media like Twitter, Facebook, and other platforms. And then we would love to see you. If you are really interested, talk to your friends, get them to sign up, because again, this is going to be a very fun program. And it is about just exploring and getting creative, having fun, and we'll make it as fun as it can be with the tremendous support from, here, the city of Detroit, SEMCOG, as well as all of the university, many different units within the university coming together to make this a fun experience.
Great. Well, since we've been on the Zoom call, I actually got an instant message from a colleague that said, I'm an alumnus of Wayne State. Let me know if I can help. So there's lots of fun interest unfolding as we speak for this event, and we're really looking forward to what the students bring.
Absolutely. That will be great, Charity. So any other questions, comments from the students? We will try to advertise this more actively. So the lead time, we just sent the first information message out only on Monday. And as I said, Charity, this is, I want the students to know this event is open to students. So if you know students from other local universities that are interested, please encourage them. We did distribute the information to a couple of universities, over the last couple of days. So yeah, we are hoping to basically see, 50 to 100 to maybe even 150 students participate in the hackathon. Currently, we are thinking it will be in the student center. There is a small possibility that we will move it to the Ilitch School of Business. It's a brand new building, right on Woodward, a fantastic place, with a beautiful auditorium and all that. So there is a small chance that we may move to that facility.
So may I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
So
maybe I miss it, but is there any limitation for the number of people that can join in a group?
So we're thinking 3 to 6 students. Is it Charity? You know, I mean,
2 to
yeah.
6, 2 to 6 students. And I think we've limited to 150 participants in person, but I think we'll be fine. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But 2 to 6 for us. And, you know, I mean, if you guys make a case saying, you know, we are a team of 7 and we really need to be as a team, you know, we'll make an exception. But yeah.
I see. Okay, thank you.
But, you know, 3, 4 people may be an ideal team. But yeah, but if somebody wants to come in as a 2-person team, that's fine. And if somebody wants a slightly bigger team, that's also fine.
Sounds great and fun. Thank you.
The idea is to think out of the box and you know, come up with some creative ideas. And as you have seen, there is a lot of data available directly through the HERE platform, as well as this City of Detroit portal, as well as the SEMCOG portal. And you're also welcome to access other public data sets, bring that to the hackathon. And you're also certainly welcome to use any open source tools, other tools, right? I mean, so if you guys are more comfortable with, you know, Python, things like that, you know, hopefully, you know, when we get into the deeper dive in terms of the HERE platform, we will learn more about how to be able to leverage some open source code and things like that.
We'll just pause in case there are any other questions before we close.
Sure. If there are no questions, we wish you all a wonderful spring break. And as Steve said, maybe, you know, even though it is a spring break, you can use the time to explore a little bit. So please check out those websites that Steve has shared. And we will also post the presentation as well as the recorded video, make it available through the hackathon website. And we look forward to seeing you guys, and bring your friends in 2 weeks. You know, March 25th, same time, Friday, in noon to 1 p.m. Eastern time. And this time we will dig deeper into, for example, what the HERE platform can do. And if there are questions, we can also dig deeper into the City of Detroit data portal, as well as the SEMCOG data portal. Back to you, Charity.
I think that's it. That's a wrap for today, but we will get these slides out. I'll make those available, and we're looking forward to the next steps. Thanks everyone for joining today.
Okay. Thank you all. Bye now.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.